The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus departed to the mountain to pray, and he spent the night in prayer to God. When day came, he called his disciples to himself, and from them he chose 12, whom he also named apostles. Simon, whom he named Peter, and his brother Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James the son of Alphaeus, Simon, who was called a zealot, and Judas the son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. And he came down with them and stood on a stretch of level ground. A great crowd of his disciples and a large number of people from all Judea and Jerusalem and the coastal region of Tyre and Sidon came to hear him and be healed of their diseases. And even those who were tormented by unclean spirits were cured. Everyone in the crowd sought to touch him, because power came forth from him and healed them all. The Gospel of the Lord. When I was first appointed to be campus minister, or Newman chaplain, at Cal State Long Beach back in 1983, one of the first things that I did was to make an appointment with the president of the university. His name was Steve Horn. Later, he became a 5-term congressman from Long Beach, and he had a very, very distinguished career. One of the questions that I asked him when I had that meeting with him at the beginning of my ministry there was, what value did he, as a college university president, see in religious campus ministry, the presence of religious community such as the Newman Club, the Newman Center, and the ministry of the various faiths? What advantage did he see? What did he see as the purpose of campus ministry on a secular state university campus? Very interesting, he did not have to pause to think a moment about it. He immediately answered, the unique thing that religious campus ministry can do on a college campus that nobody else can do is to form community among people who would otherwise not associate with each other. In other words, that the community that we can build cuts across the various lines of division that are very natural on a college campus. And he was referring not only to the political divisions that we have, or the division between faculty and students, or the ethnic divisions among students, and the various disciplines, because there were a lot of distinct departments in a university like that, 30,000 students, that would not be associating with one another except by having religion to draw them together. And he was also very well aware that religious ministry on a campus like that had an ecumenical and interfaith dimension, so that we would be associating not only with our own religion or denomination, but would form associations across the board. And he said that performs, from a secular point of view, that performs a very, very significant service and function. Now, let's go to the gospel. Jesus calls 12 out of his large group of disciples and appoints them as apostles. We know a little bit about that band of 12. And one of the things that I think is very striking is without Jesus, they would never have any reason to come together. They were fishermen. There may have been farmers. There was a tax collector. There was a revolutionary who sought violent revolution against the Roman occupation. That was Simon the Zealot. There was one who became a little bit too much a lover of money and became a traitor. But the thing is, without Jesus, those 12 would never have a reason to come together. And he named them apostles. He called them those who would go forth into the world and proclaim the good news of God's kingdom. And after he did that, he went down on a stretch of level ground, and the first thing that he did was not only his disciples, but a crowd of a large number of people came to him. And he lists where they come from. Jerusalem and Judea, that was about a 2 days journey away. The coastal region of Tyre and Sidon, that was pagan country. And that was at least a 3 or 4 day journey away. They came to the shore of the Sea of Galilee, those great distances, in order to hear Jesus. But first, in order to be healed of their diseases. And what was the significance of those diseases? I think we all know when we are suffering or in pain, when we are distressed or depressed, we tend to close in on ourselves and create barriers around us. And we get isolated. The real meaning of Jesus' miracles of healing was not just to make somebody feel good so that they could have a little better life. That's a good thing. But it was to remove the barriers that isolated people from one another. And so, when Jesus spent some time there, healing them of their diseases, casting out unclean spirits that tormented them, and everyone in the crowd sought to touch him and be healed, then he begins to teach them. And you're going to hear his teaching tomorrow and for the next few days. But I'll give you a little hint as to how it begins. It's St. Luke's version of the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor, and so on. And then, after contrasting the Beatitudes with certain woes, which is unique to St. Luke's Gospel, he begins to teach about love of enemies. In other words, once our barriers, our internal barriers are dealt with, our mission is to heal, to remove external barriers, the barriers of alienation and rivalry and competition and hatred and violence among people, to overcome them. And they can only do that by love. So once we experience ourselves in the process of being healed internally, then what we need to do is ask the Lord to enable us to learn how to love our enemies, because that doesn't come natural. What comes natural to us is that we love our friends and especially hate those who threaten us in any way. But Jesus says, no, the enemies are the ones that will have to be a particular act of love. Just like for the apostles to get along together, they had to not just put aside their differences, but overcome their differences. And in Jesus himself, learn how to love one another. So our prayer today really needs to be, once again, Lord, teach us how to love you above all things, and to love one another as you love us.